Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So tonight, we're going to review a movie that was on our listings for quite a while, and I have been sort of...
That's our listing.
And it's not because I was neglecting it or anything. It's just that a lot of other movies came up.
So many good movies we have to get through first.
Yeah, so this one's a comedy... Yeah, comedy horror.
It's a comedy horror, but it's a zombie comedy film. Actually, there was another one there. Some guys got turned into zombies. They're trying to make their way home by hitchhiking and stuff and try to get home to their girlfriends and stuff. Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. It was a funny one. Yeah.
Anyway, this one's called Fido, and it's an interesting one.
2006 Canadian one. Zombie comedy, like we said.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, a bit interesting.
I think it is.
And produced by Trent Carlson, Blake Corbett, Mary-Anne Waterhouse, Kevin Eastwood. Is he Kevin? Is Kevin Eastwood Clint's little boy?
I don't
know.
I wouldn't have a clue.
I know he has a son doing some stuff in the films industry.
Yeah.
And Patrick Casavetti. Okay, right now, written by Robert Chomiak, Andrew Curry and Dennis Heaton, from a story by Dennis Heaton, and it was actually directed by Andrew Curry. So, story by Dennis, who helped write the script, and one of the script writers was the director. So that's keeping it pretty close to your chest, isn't it?
Yes. It's interesting.
Now, when I first watched this, I didn't recognise who the leading female was, because she is very much in period hairstyles and dresses and acting a little bit different. It was Carrie-Anne Moss. I like her. I've seen her in a few things over the years, but she's playing a 50s style housewife, and I'm used to seeing her in horror movies and action movies and shit and crap and everything else, and I honestly didn't recognise that. She really did the 50s bit quite nicely.
She did, didn't she?
Right, now speaking of all those good groovy things, I'll get back to the actors in a minute. Right, box office and stuff. Don't have a lot of information on it.
No.
I do not know what the budget was.
Yep.
The box office appears to be a bit on the lagging side. However, I think it would have picked up on home media. So, box office came in about 426 hours. So. But that's when I actually put this together, so it might have been accurate, it may not have been accurate. However, I don't know. But, yeah, anyway, the critics liked it. We'll talk about them later. Now, getting on to the other actors.
There's a big name
There's a zombie in
here.
it.
Yeah, there's a big name in this one, obviously.
Zombie, yeah. No, there's a zombie.
No, I was referring to one of the lead characters, obviously. Aside from
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Aside from Carrie-Anne and Moss.
I'll go through a couple of them. I won't go through everybody. Kay-Sun Ray plays Timmy Robinson, a little boy who creates all the problems with his pet zombie. Billy Connolly is Fido the zombie. Okay. Carrie-Anne Moss plays Helen Robinson, which is Timmy's mummy. There's a guy called Tim Blake Nelson who plays Mr. Theopolis. I think I've seen him in other things. He's an interesting guy, he is. Dylan Baker plays Bill Robinson, a 50s style dad in this fantasy environment, but he's scared of zombies. He's got a phobia about them. I'll mention about 3 other people here. Henry Cerny as Jonathan Bottoms. What a nice name. Sonia Bennett as Tammy. She's a zombie that Mr. Theopolis has. She's pretty.
Yeah, she's really nice.
And Alexia Fast plays Cindy Bottoms, which is Jonathan Bottoms' little girl.
I think the surname sounds funny.
Well,
It's like Neville Longbottom or something.
Yeah, Bottoms is a real name, and it's just not a popular name. Yeah.
No,
Irrespective. I won't go through too many other people there.
Yeah, most of these people are just in the spotlight, say for their and
But
have
yeah,
a
but
bit of
Billy
dialogue.
Connolly and Carrie-Anne Moss to me are the main ones. But yeah, but the other ones did really good roles. They really carried off the 50s style. So because it was based in the 50s in an alternate universe, sort of.
Yeah,
get
an
the
alternate
idea.
reality or
The
whatever.
alternate reality. That's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want to do your bit?
Sure.
Okay.
So the story begins where we find out a bit about their history, or about zombies, sort of either caused by a nuclear radiation or whatever.
Some radiation came from outer space or something or other, and soaked our world with this radiation, which reanimated
The dead.
the dead. A little bit like probably Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is sort of taking a little bit of teeny weeny bits from the Night of the Living Dead, George A. Romero stuff. So
Yeah, they borrowed the theme
borrowed
a
it.
little bit loosely.
So in this one, of course, they have, after this radiation thing, it became a zombie war against the humans and the zombies.
We won, obviously.
The humans
Otherwise it wouldn't be a
win,
movie.
and of course, they're still confined in sort of environments where around a special fence.
They had
environment.
perimeters around the towns and stuff, but
Yes.
everything went on as per normal.
Yes, exactly. So
A bit like Walking Dead. No, not Walking Dead. No, everything went to poo in that one, didn't it? Yeah.
some of the zombies get, well, no, I wouldn't say rehabilitated. They get under control by the government and turn to sort of slaves. A little bit like when we were watching the Planet of the Apes, one of the movies where they try to turn the apes into slaves and stuff
What
like
I was
that.
going to say, they use something like a dog collar on them, which they programs and takes their killing instinct and their thirst for blood and eating people. Yeah, that's all. It's all subdued, so you can actually make them do manual tasks.
Yeah, so
How's that?
they do the tasks that not many people often do, just simple labour stuff. That's the term. Yeah. Anyway, we then meet Timmy, the little character who questions the environment about the zombie environment and stuff.
Yeah, he thinks it's how would you put it? He feels some sort of compassion towards the zombies. Would you say that? Yeah.
He does have some interesting questions, like, are zombies alive? Which
They are walking around.
They are walking around.
Because he raised the question and say, well, if zombies are alive and stuff, how about the ones who are stuck in their coffins too far down in the ground to get out? What's going to happen to them? They just kind of lay there and try to beat the way out and forever. Yeah, so he's raising a good point here.
Yeah, of course most of his classmates think he's
An
idiot. Anyway, Mr. Bottoms, who's the new organizer for ZomCon, who... ZomCon is sort of like a company that's sort of turns these zombies into servants.
Useful creatures.
And he's rebuilding parts of the wall around their environment, their enclosure, obviously. Of course, he's not really... he's really the bad guy in this movie.
He is. He's tried that I'm the good guy, I'm protecting everybody, but he's actually a moron.
Yes.
Yeah,
Then we get to meet Timmy's... neighborhood, where we meet Mr. Theopolis and
very nice man.
His girlfriend zombie Tammy, who's a very beautiful, not too zombie-looking girl.
She's rather cute, actually.
She's rather cute and stuff like that. Anyway, and then we meet Helen Robertson and who's Timmy's mum, who's very nice and affectionate, and of course she tries to be there for her son, but at the same time, no one seems to ever feel real emotions.
Yeah, especially her husband and Timmy's dad. He don't get too attached to anybody. They could turn into a zombie at any minute. So he's planning for their deaths, not their lives.
Yeah, he's very subdued, if that's the word.
Idiot.
And he's afraid to live, even though he is living, but he's not living with his family. It's like they have separate lives. Anyway, you kind of get that feeling when he doesn't play with Timmy or he doesn't socialize with his wife romantically. Even though we know later on Helen is pregnant, and I don't know how that happened because unless they pushed their two beds together. Right, Dan?
You won't go there. This is a kiddie show.
Because, as we said, it's 1950s, and this is doing it exactly like you would seen in those old movies.
In old movies where husband and wife actually had separate beds.
Yes.
How do you make children separate beds? I'll never know.
Have a tube between them? That sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah, you make a date. Well, we'll meet in the middle? No. Is it on the floor or something? No.
Anyway,
Can I come to your bed?
So Helen has this big, awesome surprise for her husband. And she dresses up for the occasion, and Timmy dresses up, and she presents him with a zombie servant, whom we later learn that Timmy names Fido, as like a dog named Fido. Didn't you say to me that you had one?
I had a dog called Fido when I was a child. Yes, and when you look at it, I was born in 1954, and Fido was a creature of the late 1950s.
Yeah, well, Fido and Rufus and Fluffy, if you have a cat.
Fluffy's an ongoing name.
We're the ongoing names for that
But
time.
Fido's you don't get too many Fidos nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not a family name you sort of hand down from dog to dog.
No. Of course, when Bill Robertson sees Fido, his phobia jumps in full on, and she goes on to say, "Oh, our new neighbour is Mr. Bottoms, the organizer for ZombCon, and I told him
5 or
that
6 zombies.
we had one zombie. Of course, this is untrue because she hasn't met them as of yet.
But she knows they got 5 or 6 zombies.
From
They were
Tim.
unpacking the truck.
Yeah, from Timmy, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, she thinks that she doesn't want to be the only member of their community without a zombie.
Yeah, they might think they're strange or something.
Yeah, it's become a sort of the in thing where you make the zombies your servants. It's a confusing culture when you think about it.
Well, poor little zombies. They don't get days off or anything.
Yeah. Anyway, you do see that the zombies have a little more feelings in this. I like to think the collar also kind of gets their... The only thing that, aside from their mobile ability, their feelings are still there.
No, honestly, I don't think really that their feelings were there unless they were remnants of the brain was still active and other things. Remember in Warm Bodies?
Oh, yes,
with
I
those guys there who started to revert back to being human?
Yes.
When they started remembering who and what they were before they became zombies. Yeah, the living dead or whatever they were. They came back and they humanized them. So there might be some remnants of their memory still in there. How's that?
Yes. Anyway, of course, Bill objects to this, but then he finally gives in because his wife is more the controlling member in the family, obviously, because she knows whatever she says goes.
She gets what she wants.
Which she does, and of course she allows the zombie to stay in the backyard, like.
They chain him up to a tree.
Yes,
to keep the husband happy.
Yeah, he also has a control that sort of electric shocks is like the collar.
A dog training collar gives him a bit of a zap when someone's being naughty.
Misbehave, like if you got blood,
those sorts of things.
On the
it's not
bed.
Very nice. Zombies are only human,
Oh yes. Then later on, as Timmy is about to play catch with his father, his dad wanted to go off and play golf with his friends. Of course, Timmy is all alone at his home. His mother is gone off to meet the Mr. Bottoms and his family, obviously. And Timmy is left alone with the new zombie, Fido. Of course, he tries to interact with him to play catch. But of course, zombies are. He's still a little bit.
He's very flexible, tad on the slow side.
Yes.
He just stands there and throws the ball at him.
Timmy gets a little annoyed and decides to head off to the park.
No, he throws the ball to go fetch the ball.
Yes, when we get much later on. He goes to the park, remember?
And they're still playing catch.
Yes, much later on. When he meets up with these bullies who are dealing with these other zombies who are just working, and they're about to bully Timmy, but luckily enough, Fido appears and he stops them. And then he wants to try to start again by playing catch with Timmy. Of course, Timmy realizes that that while he's not flexible enough to play, catch, he can fetch the ball, And of course, this is where we find out where he finds a name for Fido, of course, and calling him Fido. Isn't that right, Mike?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm. So he then fetches the ball, but as he's fetching the ball, he interacts with an elderly, nasty lady who is Mrs. Henderson, I think.
Yeah, that's right, Miss Henderson.
Who she knocks his collar, and it starts to cause his animal zombie instincts to take over.
She's got a walking frame. She starts beating him with it.
Yes.
And she's doing that, and she turns the collar off. And so he decides he's a bit pecky, so he decides to have lunch on Mrs. Henderson.
Yes. And of course, at first we think he's going to attack Timmy, but then the collar beeps and comes back on. And then soon enough, Timmy and Fido, they head back home. Of course, there's blood on his zombie's face.
So he hoses him down.
Yes. But he also meets his what's her name? Cindy Bottoms.
She's cute.
She's very cute, and I think he has a teeny crush on her, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, being a little kid.
Who wouldn't? He's about the right age.
Yeah. Anyway, he hides the fact that his zombie nibbled on someone, obviously because Mr. Bottoms was nearby. And who knows what will happen.
And it could create a problem.
Yeah, because aside from taking away the zombie, he and his family might be taken to the dead zone outside
the fence,
neighborhood.
and they'll end up becoming zombies themselves.
Yeah. It's sort of the rule if you break in that community.
Well, there's no prisons anymore. You just put them out in the dead zone. There you go.
Yes. Anyway, Timmy's cleaning the zombie off, and here his mother finds out about how... Let me see, what was it? Oh, yeah, about how he was being bullied, and Timmy says that Fido defended him, and she asks him, who's Fido? And he looks at his zombie, and of course, at this point, Bill thinks it's odd that to name a zombie, but even Mr. Philopoulos also named his zombie, even though that was probably a name that she already came with.
Not necessarily. He gave it Tammy. Back in the 50s, Tammy movies were out and about from memory of Debbie Reynolds, was it? I can't remember now. Yeah, Tammy. Tammy, tell me, Trey, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Carry on.
Yeah, so... Of course, he also reveals, or Timmy reveals, that the reason the zombie was sort of turned into a zombie was because he had a heart attack. There were some stitches along his body that indicated he had a previous heart attack, in the past.
Okay, now for you smart people out there, supposedly he died from a myocardial infarction. How's that one grab you? If you're not real sure, go and watch House.
Of course.
House MD, yeah.
Anyway, they also meet Mr. Bottoms and his wife arrive there, and there they talk a little bit, about the zombie wars and how Mr. Bottoms treats it like he still feels the urge to kill zombies and stuff like that, and he's not even...
He's not a very nice man.
Oh. Of course, Timmy realizes that he's more worried that soon enough that the news about him and Mrs. Henderson might come forward soon enough. Later on that night, he goes down to the park and he attacks and kills Mrs. Henderson before she kills anyone. But she does kill she attacks someone, later that evening, obviously. Of course, Timmy doesn't find out about this until later on, obviously. Here, Timothy buries her in the park, and then he heads back to his home. Here, the collar starts playing up again, and Fido it's bringing back his feral zombie instincts, and of course, Mr. Philopoulos appears and offers to help. He used to work there at ZomCon and has a lot of equipment.
Yeah, it's having severance pay.
Yes.
Which means he took some stuff home.
Yeah, and it turns out that also Timmy discovers that Fido used to be a smoker, which could explain how he developed a bit of a... would that explain how the heart thingy worked? I don't know much about it.
No, a heart attack can be brought on lots of things. General bad health. My dad died of a cerebral hemorrhage. Was brought on by smoking and drinking and junk food and everything else. And he died when he was 45. So Yeah, anything can happen. Yeah.
That's true. Anyway, that could be the cause. Maybe the root cause. Anyway, Stroppels tells Timmy that the reason why the collar was invented was because the inventor didn't want to see his wife, he didn't want to kill his wife, so he developed the collar.
His wife became a zombie, so he did something to stop her becoming. Cut off, head cut off and different things to stop us from doing whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there is there's something else I should mention, but I'll mention it much later on. So, anyway, Fido gets back to normal, and as later that next day, I think, we see Mrs. Helen and Bill and Timmy. They're going to a funeral, a zombie funeral, obviously, because a zombie con funeral. That's sort of where you get buried and you get your head lopped off.
They cut your head off because once your head's severed from your body, supposedly you cannot come back to life.
Yes. Mm-hmm. She gets Fido dressed in a nice suit that makes his face match the suit.
A grey suit, and he's got grey skin.
Yeah, as she's preparing him, he starts feeling affectionate towards her. Like he kind of... Well, you could see the affection, obviously.
He doesn't say a lot. Actually, he doesn't talk in this movie. He goes...
But the urging feeling is there, obviously.
You can see in his face. Yes.
Yeah, and they get to the funeral, but before we get to the funeral, the park is... the new zombie that was attacked by Mrs. Henderson starts getting new victims to get eaten, obviously. Anyway,
yummy.
Anyway, then we get to the funeral, which is, of course, Mr. Robertson is excited about this, saying that he treats it like it was a celebrity sighting, if you will. He's carrying around a camera. He's looking at people who are not so excited, but more like, oh, I'm upset about I lost my father, I lost my cousin. This is not exactly a pleasant feeling for them. Anyway, so it's a very depressing type thingy-wing. Even Timmy thinks it's depressing and remarks to his mother whether zombies are evil and stuff like that. And Helen explains to him that zombies are not necessarily evil, but they can't help it. It's in their nature to eat and kill, and it's not their fault. And so
like
Timmy,
a little pussycat killing birds out in your backyard. Not its fault. It's a hunter.
Of course, later on when his dad approaches them, telling them about how he's all excited that some of the zombies, some people don't get zombie funerals because it's very expensive, obviously. And he's more excited about the fact that they're going to get all funerals and stuff like that. But then Helen tells her husband, get your own funeral, me and Timmy are going zombie. Mm-hmm. Later on, when they're driving back to their neighborhood, they see a bunch of ZomCon guys taking away Mr. Henderson away in a van. And here, Mr. Robertson explains that maybe Mr. Henderson gave his wife an illegal burial, which is considered frowned upon in some countries.
Exactly.
And this is where, according to Mr. Robertson, that this is where the fact there might be some zombies roaming around, obviously, and this is where the soldiers start attacking some other zombies in the area who. Because
Mrs. Henderson woke up and started biting people and says that it's all small zombie outbreak.
Yeah,
they're trying to clean up the mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, it goes pretty okay, obviously, and then later on, let me see what happens next. Oh yeah, Timmy continues to hang out with Zombie, obviously, and of course, Helen's starting to decide to sort of take interest in what they're doing. Of course, she tries to get her husband, tries to explain that she is pregnant, but he kind of is stuck in his own silly little world, if you will.
Yes.
Anyway,
zombies.
And he notices that Helen and Timmy and Fido are bonding like a real family when you think about it.
Exactly. See.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, then later on, Timmy takes Fido into the woods to go for a swim, I guess in a lake or something, I don't know.
Or a lake or a creek or something, or But
Yeah.
we don't actually see them swimming anywhere, but he mentions it,
Anyway, the two bullies we intermediate with earlier approach them and plan on killing Fido and pinning the blame on Timmy and his family. And so, but things backfire big time after they turn the collar off, and both boys get killed by Fido, but Fido does not kill Timmy, meaning he's starting to, I guess, he's evolving. That's the term.
He's evolving. Yes, that's a good word for it. Yeah.
Because I think that the collar, aside from being a domestic collar and trying to get them to start thinking rationally, I think he's taking more control over his zombie instincts and starting to think like a human again.
A bit.
Yeah. He then goes to get Helen and...
Can I just drop in here a bit?
Sure.
Remember back in the olden days, the Lassie movies?
Mm-hmm. Oh, not really. I never watched Lassie. My bad.
Well, I think little boy, whatever his name was in the movie, Lassie's owner, or the boy who's child owner, had got into trouble and says, Lassie, go for help. And this is a take-off of the Lassie movie where, go and help. Get some help, Lassie. Well, he's a Fido, like a dog's name, so I think there's a bit of a parody sort of thing on Lassie.
Most likely. Anyway, so Fido makes his way back to the home, and he gets Helen to come with him. And of course, she notices his collar's lights off.
Yeah.
And she begins to wonder if he's going to attack her, but he doesn't.
He didn't know.
He kind of has a little bit of control, and she starts realizing that
he's not all about after all.
Yeah. Anyway, soon enough, the little boys get bullies were kind of turned into zombies. It seems that this does happen very quickly, unlike other zombies.
What actually happened when they were giving Timmy and Fido a hard time, one of the boys had a rifle, and he shot the zombie Fido, and the bullet went straight through him and hit his brother in the chest or something or other. So one brother killed the other brother, and they said, well, he was going to obviously turn into a zombie, obviously.
Yeah.
And then Fido, they'd turn his collar off or something or other, and he got this little boy off the gun, and he gave him a bit of a chewing out.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, when someone dies, they turn to a Zed, even if you get bitten or not bitten.
Oh, yeah, but all dead get reanimated. So those two boys are put in this little cabin, shed, whatever, just near where they were, and Fido put some rocks against the door to keep them in there when he went to go get Mummy. Yeah,
Helen arrives and she takes out the small pistol and she shoots both both bullies, obviously, and she then takes upon herself to get some gasoline and pour it on the dead bodies, and then
inside in this little shed. Yeah,
she tells Timothy that what he sees is not normal, but she had to do it.
Because they were zombies now.
Yeah, and he understands. And then later on, as they're searching for these ZomCon guys continue searching for any clues to possibly how this zombie thingy occurred. And one of the zombie staff that was working the garden beds discovered the dead Mrs. Henderson buried in the garden, obviously. Then we meet Sydney. Let me see. Oh, the Robinsons are hanging out with the Mr. Bottoms and his family, and Timmy is bonding with Cindy, of course, and it's nice. And of course, Miss Bottoms asks Mrs. Robinson why hasn't told her husband about the new baby. Of course, she's wearing pinups, and most of the time these dresses flare out, so you cannot really see her how much weight she's gained. Obviously, most of the time in pinups, you can only see it from they have a certain style about them. A pinup is a style of dress back in the 1950s.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it was a style that's kind of come back in style. I have a few friends who worn dresses that is in nowadays. It's kind of it's their trend. I mean, I tried it one time, but I've given up any hope on it.
Was it a cartoony dress or somewhere? Or?
It's just it's sort of like a bell dress where
it billows out a bit, so you can't see too much under it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, then Mr. Bottom shows Mr. Robertson his trophy room. His trophy room, if you will, full of zombie pictures and
a head in a jar.
And a lot of creepy stuff. And he remarked about how Mrs. Robertson and Timmy are bonding with their new zombie, and he thinks this stuff won't not end well for them, obviously. So, anyway, when they get home, Mrs. Robertson tries to bring the romance back into her marriage, if that's the term, by dancing with her husband, but he's not having it. So she finds a new dance partner.
It's not Fido, the zombie.
Well,
he's a good dancer too.
Yeah, he turns out to be a really good swinger, if that's the term.
Very slow.
Slow, but he seems to be enjoying it a great deal, obviously. Anyway, this is not what Mr. Robertson wants, so he takes out the taser and give him a shot.
Taser?
Oh, not taser, the remote.
The remote control, he goes, hits the button, he goes, yeah, I'm in charge here. Yeah, he walks off again.
Yeah. Of course, when later on, as he's chained up outside, Mrs. Robinson tells him about how sorry she is, and she wishes that she could have known him before he died. And she asked him, do you remember that? And you get an expression on his face saying that he does have a memory, but he cannot say it because in so many words.
Yeah, he can't remember everything, but maybe little flashes, maybe. Yeah.
She then heads back inside, and then later on, the guys at SomCon, they discover the baseball that Timmy owned on the crime scene in the park, obviously, hinting it has a little bit of blood on it from during the zombie attack. And here, Mr. Bombs uses this attempt to take Fido away in a van and
put him back to the factory.
And here he tells them about how he's kind of has given the family they're not going to be put in the death zone, the wild zone.
It's called the wild zone, yeah.
And so they're given he's given them a chance to still live and stuff like that, obviously. And Timmy is like, life continues to be the same in Timmy's neighborhood. He's still alone and all that stuff and his father is trying to make every effort to try to be there for his family, but when he hears about his wife being pregnant, his only reaction was he cannot afford another funeral.
I won't say that word.
I don't want to say that.
Anyway,
later on, Cindy approaches Timmy and tells him that the Fido was not destroyed. Like we said, he was taken to the factory, but actually they thought he was destroyed, like as in being
beheaded and stuff. But no, they don't waste a resource, so they put him in the factory to do some work.
Yeah, Cindy tells him that her father would never waste a perfectly good zombie, so it would have been a waste of precious, servant time. Anyway, so she says that Mr. Philippus could help Timmy to break Fido out and hopefully do this. He's pretty cool with it, and we also learn from Cindy that Mr. Philippus is dating Tammy, obviously, but that he was fired for
fraternizing
with Tammy. Yeah. And of course, that could be the reason why he was fired, maybe. I'm not sure. Because by the sounds of it...
You're not supposed to get too up close and personal with the merchandise.
Of course. Timmy asks him, what would happen if Tammy was taken away? He says calmly, oh, that's okay. I'll get another one the same vintage. But he notices Tammy looks a little...
Looks a bit
sad. And he says he didn't mean to that way, and says that he didn't mean to be so hurtful. And so they're at the ZomCon facility, and where they're waiting in line, and he tells Tammy that he'll just be back in a bit, so he gives her a kiss kiss. And then he starts playing around with one of the colors on another Zed who's in line, obviously. And then Tim quickly uses it as a diversion as to, go behind the counter to try to find Fido, obviously. And so it's sort of like a sweatshop inside there. I'm not sure. It was very dark and very creepy and very weird.
No health and safety thingies in there,
He finds Fido, and of course, Mr. Bottoms is there. He looks at the CCTV footage, and he plans on taking Timmy to the dead wild zone. Later on, Helen and Bill, they get the note that Cindy sent Timmy about Fido being alive, so they head to the ZomCon facility. All the time, Billy's saying, "I was always a good father" and stuff like that. "I was never a bad father." It's blah blah blah. He's going on and on a bit. Of course, she says that just because you had a bad experience with your dad does not mean that everyone has to be unhappy forever.
Anyway,
then soon enough they arrive there, and of course it's I should not go into that just yet. Soon enough, Bill gets inside the ZomCon thingy wing, and he goes try and search for Fido.
His son.
Yes, that's true. He sees a lot of Zeds. Unlike Fido, the rest of the other zombies look really creepy here. Like their parts of their face being eaten away.
Parts are used by dates, falling apart a bit and stuff.
Yeah, Fido was able to get loose using some of the power tools, that were there.
Borrow a power tool from one of the zombies there and cut through his chains. Yeah.
And they both head to where Timmy is. He's at the moment in the wild zone, and the dangerous Zeds are approaching, the ones with no collars whatsoever.
The ones from outside, they don't just have collars, that's why they're outside.
Yeah. Bill tries to get Mr. Bottoms to bring his son back out of the
that
area. Of course, they get into a fight, and then Mr. Bottoms kind of shoots his father. And then Timmy was able to get our way out of the wild zone. Of course, he kind of forgets to lock the gate.
And the zombies start coming in. Okay.
Of course, Timmy deactivates Fido's collar, and this is where Fido bites into Mr. Bottom's throat.
Did he bite into his neck or his bottom?
I don't know. It would be so funny if it did. Anyway,
and whatever.
So the other wild Zeds start appearing and start planning to attack. Of course, luckily enough, Helen appears and shoots them, obviously, and they all quickly get away. Of course, this is where the wild zombies start attacking the soldiers and stuff like that. But luckily enough,
they eventually contain it.
Yeah, they eventually contain it, and Mr. Bottoms is turned into a Zed, of course, and later on we do see him now being looked after by his family, obviously.
And his daughter has Daddy on a lead. Come on, Daddy.
Yeah. Later we see Timmy and Helen at her husband's funeral, and he's given the zombie funeral that he's always wanted.
Yeah, head in a separate box. Yeah. Lovely.
And now dear old Fido sort of takes over, becomes a sort of...
a surrogate father for Timmy, Helen's...
newborn baby.
And Helen's newborn baby, and Helen's partner, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually get married, But,
I don't think I don't think they would get to that area anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, later on we see them
and they're very happy.
Yeah, they're much more happier. We see them having a nice barbecue, and of course, I like to think they might be having have zombie insurance and be able to pay for everything still. And so they're in the backyard. Everyone's having a good time, and we see Fido is kind of playing catch with Timmy, and he's actually...
He caught the
ball this time.
And he walks over and lights a cigarette. He used to smoke when he was alive, so old habits die hard.
Yeah. He then sort of, interacts with the little newborn baby, and Helen is impressed that he's much more a better father than...
He's more caring and loving than the The dead guy is more caring, loving than the live guy. Interesting, isn't it?
It's a bit of an interesting thing where the living people seem to stop feeling, while the zombies seem to have a little bit of feeling behind them. Anyway, then the movie fades out, and that's the end, obviously.
Yeah, lovely.
I do feel like there's a bit of symbolism, the fact that the Zeds have a little bit more feeling, like the collar kind of domesticates them and starts getting them to start feeling certain emotions inside their brain. Like a lot of people often say that parts of your brain are the emotional side. Like, wouldn't you say, Mike?
Something like that.
And something along those lines. While the humans in this, they seem to tend to turn to the more irrational side to their brains, obviously. Seems to forget about the fact they seem to be more closer to, let's focus on what's around us, make us more, noticed by everyone else, that we're so well connected and we are happy. Are we happy? Don't know. We may not be happy. It seems like that's the message in this movie, where people pretend to be happy, but they don't feel happy.
Anyway,
but the zombies seem to emulate real emotions in this.
Well, some do. Or at least Fido does anyway. Now, production. This is some interesting stuff here for you movie buffs. Right. Now, the guy, director Andrew Curry, wanted to make a cross-genre film.
Good.
Okay. He was influenced by
Okay.
Lassie Come Home, which I mentioned before.
Uh-huh.
The Night of the Hunter. I haven't seen that one. I know the name of it.
I'll take your word for it.
And the early film version of Peyton Place, which would give you the feeling of the 1950s style streets and lifestyles and whatever.
Right.
And George A. Romero's. Come on. What movie do you think it is?
The Night of the Living Dead.
All of them.
Or the Night of the Living Dead seems to be close to the.
No, it says George A. Romero's zombie films.
I know.
But yeah, all of them. Now, the script was written in 1994, but creative differences kept it tied up. And finally, it was made in 2006. Blah, 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 blah. It's filmed in Canada, I believe.
I'll take your word for it.
British Columbia, Kelowna. Kelowna. There you go, wherever that is. I don't know the area up there. So
me neither. I have a friend who lives in Canada, but aside from that, I don't know much about it.
It's a big place. It's like saying I've got someone who lives in Australia, okay? You don't know every place. Right. It did not get a lot at the box office that we're aware of based on these figures. And domestic DVD sales are about about $3 million. So don't know how current that is. It's still for sale. It might still be streaming somewhere, so it might still be trickling in. Now, reviews. I won't go through too much of it, but for example, Rotten Tomatoes has 73%. Actually, based on 73 reviews. And they gave the positive review, obviously, making the most of its thin premise. Fido is occasionally touching satire that provides big laughs and enough blood and guts to please gorehounds. There you go. Metacritic gave it 70 out of 100. Pittsburgh Gazette gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Hollywood Reporter, for a one-joke movie, Fido does a fine job exploring every possible permutation of that joke. Dan Harvey from Variety called it a frisky yet strangely familiar film that is amusing but still does not fulfill all its promise. But that's not say much. It may be mediocre. New York Times, ticklishly amusing satire. So it just goes on. A lot of the guys liked it. So why it didn't do good in the box office? Maybe too much competition at the time. Never know.
Does not matter.
So that's where the problem is. Maybe it wasn't advertised that well. Maybe it didn't come across well. Word of mouth. Who knows? Don't know. But we liked it.
I thought it was pretty cool.
And,
I always think that's pretty good.
Look, I like things that are a little bit different instead of trying to do the same old all the time. And this is a fresh look at things. Yeah, so they took a nice zombie theme and added Lassie feeling to it and Play's feeling to it and did whatever and yada yada yada. Happy family in a weird alternative universe sort of environment there, and Bob's your uncle. Yeah. Oh, I reckon it works, honestly. The actors they chose fitted the 50s style.
Yeah. I mean, I did think that the lady who played Helen was pretty spot on.
Carrie-Anne really nailed it as a 50s housewife. An attractive 50s housewife, might add. But, it had a 50s feel to it, which is good. I mean, sometimes you get, we're going to a 50s feeling, but it was too... they don't nail it atmosphere sometimes. Something's not quite right. But no, I think the acting, the actors, obviously props, you get an old car and an old house, but everything worked. So, I like it. It's a bit like that one we talked about the other day, The Shape of the Water. That was also done possibly in an alternate universe sort of feeling, back in the 50s sort of feeling too. So things like that. Yeah. And when you get it nailed right and it comes together, it's got a nice feel to it. So anyway, I'm going to grade it now.
Okay.
I won't give it a 10, but I might give it a 9.
Yeah.
9 out of 10. Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 myself. I think it's an interesting one. I like the fact that it's the George A. Romero stuff slips in between.
I like
and
George.
The period that was set in the 1950s kind of was interesting, where we don't know very much about the 1950s except for its fashion and the filming style.
The good movies. Yeah.
And of course, in the filming styles, they didn't have too much, over dramatizing stuff. Obviously,
remember the old B movies? Those are sci-fi and horrors. I love them. Yeah.
Yeah, and those ones, no doubt, they didn't really have any. They didn't go over the top when it comes to drama.
They couldn't. They didn't have any didn't have any CCI or anything else. They just did a nice little friendly little drama and put a few zombies in it, or a creature in Black Lagoon, or a tarantula or something rather.
Well, I just meant like the fact they don't look into the depths of lives. It's like
there's no backstories.
There's no. They just see it like, oh, what a beautiful day. Oh, what a beautiful morning type of attitude.
And then a great tarantula comes over the hill. There you go.
Yeah. It's sort of like, that's sort of atmosphere where you think that's the thing you have to feel every day, but actually you feel...
But here's something too. Back in those old movies, the movies weren't quite as long then either. Because earlier, I think in the 30s and 40s, it wasn't uncommon for a movie to be about an hour and 10 minutes. By the time we got the 50s, they were getting a bit longer, and anywhere from an hour and 10 to an hour 30 minutes or 90 minutes was normally what you were getting. So they didn't waste too much time developing characters or backstories or anything else. So it was good. Let's get straight into the story and scare the crap out of people.
It was interesting at the opening. They started off doing the old-fashioned filmmaking style, when they did the newsreel, where they used teeny-weeny bits of stock footage to indicate the zombie wars, like air fighter pilot stuff, the real one stuff you may have seen in those newsreels, obviously, and of course they added in between those bits the sort of filming them shooting Zeds, zombies, like George A. Romero style in that.
Yeah, that's all stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
it was kind of an interesting mix, and it's kind of. Even though it's meant to be an alternate reality universe, but it's interesting how they integrated all that into one another to make it sound like a real universe they're living in.
Anyway, before I do anything else, as you're aware, we do these a couple of weeks ahead. Today is the 15th of May, and then we heard the other day that one of our heroes from the past, Roger Corman, passed away. A couple of days ago. He was 98 or something. He was pretty old.
He was about 98 as far as I'm
So he had a good innings considering. But
he's been around for quite a great deal. And from what I understand, in the 1980s and in the 80s and in the 90s, he has been a very big positive influence on the younger filmmakers.
Now, a lot of you guys, if you're in the movies, you know Roger Corman did those Vincent Price things, like the Black Cat and whatever, and the Haunted Palace type things, whatever. But that, to me, that was his peak period. He was doing movies before that. Highway Dragnet was one of his early ones. But when he got into doing these Edgar Allan Poe things with Vincent Price, I think that was probably the best work I have ever seen. Even on today's standard, they're good, solid films. And of those of you who haven't seen Roger Corman's and Vincent Price's, those Edgar Allan Poe type things, go and have a look at them if you haven't seen them. They're really good value. We may not review them, or we might review one or two.
Them after a period.
Yeah, Roger Corman, sorely missed. I mean, he obviously hasn't done anything great recently, but an older man, but he's obviously inspired a lot of people along the way, helped people as well. What can you say? I mean, he's one of our heroes. I mean, we like the guys like Romero and Corman and
been around, and he's inspired so many well-known mainstream actors, like Jack Nicholson, who has gone on to bigger and better things, as far as I'm concerned.
And other people, but anyway, we won't go into a list of who.
A lot of other independent filmmakers who worked under Roger Corman and managed to learn a little bit of stuff and able to go out and make their own film projects.
So, to you, Roger Corman,
we miss you.
Well, the world is going to miss people like him. There's no one. I'm not going to say there's no one there to replace these guys, but I find that the major filming studios don't let the new guys in quite so easy, and
it's hard to open the magical kingdom to everyone.
The up and coming talent. If they can't do it themselves on a limited budget, they're not going to get a look in. So I reckon that the big studios should take a quantum leap and start looking at the new independent producer directors and see anyone who's got any good talent and bring them on board and actually use them in their own studios and make bigger and better productions. Yeah. So there you go.
If they stopped being the producers, stop counting the money.
The bean counters,
that they should actually start listening to ideas.
And then you might get more beans to count. Anyway, now where do you get it? Yeah, it's on eBay. You can buy it there. Amazon, you can rent or buy it. It's possibly streaming. Who knows? Look around. But yeah, it's not that expensive through Amazon, so you can rent it.
I do think that there is a few ones that are really coming out of the industry that have made an impression and managed to grip new audiences, and become new things in this world. And I like to think that some of if you actually look outside the box a bit, you can find that there's plenty ones out there, like the one we watched previously, Abigail. That one is something that's new out there. And the guys who did Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, that's something that's not been done before.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point. Taking something simple like a child's story and
turning into something dark.
You're very dark. Of course. Good. Blood and Honey.
A lot of people often say, I remember in the 80s when people when they made the Santa Claus, in Silent Night, Deadly Night, that movie, people were protesting about how they didn't like it when taking something so wholesome and turning it into something dark.
No, they're taking Christmas and making it a horror movie.
Yes.
It just so happens Santa Claus was in it. But I don't think it was a Santa Claus part. I think it was a Christmas bit.
True.
Religious people got on board and said, we don't like this. Sorry, blow it your bum. I'm sorry, yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
It's just,
Anyway.
I think that they were more worried about the wholesome side and who might be watching this movie, even though
Well, if you don't like it, don't watch it.
yeah,
There
even
you
though
go.
it's
It's
turned
easy
into
fixed up,
though it's turned into a cult following, and it's still gaining popularity. And I like to think the same thing could be happening with the newer independent films that are giving more control back to the director and a little bit more control over what they want to do.
Oh, by the way,
I know that they still have producers on board, but they still and there's still suggestions to make the movie tighter here and there. Anyway, go on.
I had an idea, but I thought I won't. We're running a bit over time here at the moment.
Sorry.
So, yeah. So, look, anyway, guys, you know where to get it. eBay, Amazon. Amazon has it for rent for only a few dollars, so it's not a bad one. It's good fun. If you like comedy, horror, zombies, whatever, it's good. It's light-hearted. The kiddies could almost watch it.
Oh, yeah.
But if the kids aren't worried about people having the next tubes and stuff, and a bit of blood and stuff, Anyway, it's good fun.
All right.
We're going to kill it?
Yes. So, thanks for listening to our latest podcast, everyone. And be sure to check it out. Obviously, plenty of DVDs, like Mike said, on sale. So, you can actually check it out. I don't know if there's one on YouTube. I don't think so. But there might be on Shudder or Netflix. I don't know. I don't have it. But be sure to check it out and let us know in the comments what you think of this movie.
It's Fido 2006.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any other Fidos running around there, so you won't have too much trouble finding it.
Well, despite what you said, Fido being a name that many dogs probably in the past
I'm looking for movies.
Yeah.
I don't care about dogs, cats, or birds, or what. I talk about movies.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's Fido. So that's about it from us, guys. So have a good week, everyone, and we'll see you guys for our next podcast. So this is Sarah Stephenson
and Michael
saying see you guys around on Boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now, and have a good week.
Bye, guys.